listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft, the people who play it. Today is October 4th, 2023, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing this fine Wednesday?
Spencer, hello. I'm doing well. It's very warm in my neck of the woods, which is sad because you just said it was October 4th, but it doesn't feel like it's October 4th
it is like,
outside my window.
It is July or August weather for me at the moment.
Right. Yeah. I'm ready for that crisp autumn weather, but apparently the weather's not. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little sweaty down here in my basement, but I'm doing well. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be our last regular format show for a little while here. So
it is.
We got a big show. We got a lot of stuff to talk about because there's a lot of news, a lot of stuff happening in game and around game. So we definitely have a lot to dig into today, but also it's going to be a couple weeks before we're back with a traditional format show. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it's true. We are heading into Jason's travel time. He's going to be going away for a couple of weeks. So we have content that we have put together to cover over those next 2 weeks. However, just be aware it's not going to be the regular weekly content. It's special content, including episode 600, which is next week. So that'll be super exciting for folks to hear that and all the fun that we had doing that. And then, of course, we all have 601. And then Jason will be back for 602 that we'll record. And then we have some discussion about some stuff around BlizzCon recording, pre-BlizzCon, potentially something. We'll see how that pans out. And then I can officially announce that both Jason and I are going to BlizzCon and we'll be there. So that's a thing that happened this past week since we last spoke on the show. So yeah, I'll be traveling down. Jason will be traveling down. We'll both be at the convention and have a good time there, record some content there, hopefully, and then get back here and talk about it all afterwards. So that'll be probably like 604 or something by the time we get back and do that. We'll see what's happening with it.
It's going to be a very busy month, but yeah, we're not going to leave you guys hanging. And yeah, we do want to get something special out for BlizzCon week, especially if people are traveling out to the show or whatever. So yeah. We'll probably have 3 episodes in the next month or so that are not going to be standard format stuff because we'll be talking about like other games when we talk about BlizzCon, if you could believe that. But what's always fun, I mean, we haven't really done anything like that in years, and it's pretty exciting that we're on the precipice of doing it again. Because I think those are some of the most fun times to, make stuff about these games and kind of put stuff out into the world and have this sort of larger conversation with other people who do similar stuff and whatever. Like BlizzCon is that time of year that, I don't know, man. It's a tradition, right? It's like we always say it's like summer camp or it's like the high school reunion or whatever. It's like all that stuff, and it's been years. So, yeah, we want to do some special stuff around 600 and around BlizzCon coming back and everything. So, yeah, it's going to be. I'm going to be popping up on a couple other podcasts probably that we'll release in October. Which I don't know how I'm going to. I think I'm going to squeeze all this into my life, but I'm doing my best. I'm just not sleeping is sort of my trick there, I guess. And we will both be out at BlizzCon, like you mentioned. We're going to try to maybe figure out I'm going to be hanging out at the hotel block like all week, basically. So we might try to put together sort of hey, we're all going to go hang out at a place at a time. Stay tuned for that, I guess. If we can nail something down there. We may not have a chance to really discuss it before those plans get set on the show. And I guess also, if you need a portal pass, let me know in the Discord. I do have a portal pass up for grabs. So if somebody's, wanting to go but doesn't have a ticket in hand and you want one, I do have one that I'd be willing to part with for what I paid for it. So you can find me in the TSZ Discord and say, hey.
Yep, definitely an availability of tickets. That's something that we've noticed this year is they did a third wave this past little bit of ticket sales. And so there's certainly still some availability left. But if you're looking to get a portal pass, you can certainly reach out to Jason and get that all sorted for yourself. But enough about the BlizzCon stuff ahead of actually getting the announcements in the show. What did you get up to this past week in World of Warcraft, Jason?
Well, I got up to quite a bit. we when we spoke last, I was saying, oh, maybe we'll do some time walking Firelands. We did indeed do that, which was really fun. It was really fast. We actually had a couple wipes because like you do have to do mechanics in a couple spots, and we couldn't quite remember what the mechanics were, so we had to die to them once or twice. But we still had time to full clear it out after we had some other Aberrus bosses to take care of. So that was cool. I brought my monk. I got 2 pieces of heroic Aberrus loot just for doing time walking Firelands. Like, you're not going to find a better deal in retail of WoW loot anywhere than these Turbulent Time Ways time walking raid events. I highly recommend that you check them out and take advantage of them while they're around. And the cool thing is your item level gets normalized, so you could bring in a low gear 70 and walk out with a couple 428s or what have you. That's pretty amazing. I'm probably going to try to bring my druid to Black Temple tonight, I think is my plan. Just kind of spread the love a little bit. Last night we did some heroic and some mythic. It was a little weird. Our attendance was pretty good. I mean, we had more than 20 people, but people are starting to get restless and they're playing alts and maybe not like super confident in what they're doing. We've had this kind of ongoing dire healer shortage all expansion really, but this tier this point in this tier it's really starting to hurt. We actually didn't end up having the gas to get our 3 mythic farm bosses down. Like, we just couldn't kill the 3rd boss, so that was kind of disappointing, especially since it might realistically be our last night in Mythic Aberrus before new stuff comes out. But it is what it is. Tonight, depending on numbers and stuff, we'll probably just clean up heroic and then go crush Black Temple, which will be fun. Other stuff I've been doing. I did finish leveling up the mage last week, which I think I talked about on the show when we recorded last. Just all time walking, just pounding time walking dungeons, just super fast, straight to 70 from like low 60s. I had most of the 402 tokens just sitting in his bags because I didn't have any other clothies. So just immediately hit level 70, and then I'm in 402 plus with 4-piece, like in almost every slot, got all the Mog. I just need trinkets because they don't really get supplied to you via Dream Surges or anything, and I just haven't put the time into like doing time rifts. I mean that's a little bit lower priority for me at this point. I'm just kind of out of time for a lot of stuff. So
I'll mention the dungeons and doing time walking is actually also a great way this month. We'll talk a bunch about Traveler's Log this episode. Is a great way to actually get your Traveler's Log capped out, because it's not only like Mists of Pandaria based stuff this current week of doing stuff in Mists actually gets you a bunch of rewards. Sorry, this month, game stuff in Mists gets you a bunch of rewards, but leveling is one of the big things on that right now, of like taking a character from, all the tens milestones, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 is all worth points, as well as time walking obviously is also worth points. So you can actually cap out your Traveler's Log quite quickly just by doing that, if that's something you're taking advantage of during this twisting time ways time.
Yeah, true. That's kind of a weird addition to this month's log, but it's, hey, this is pretty good motivation to level a tune, especially since you can start doing time walking at 45 now and everything. So, yeah. I have a couple tunes left to do to round out the whole, suite of classes, but I'm not gonna hop in with any of that right now. I'll get back to the other 4 or whatever I have left to level at some other time. Other than that, I really didn't play that much this week. Like I've been just making sure I get at least my daily core and dire brew in, but I still don't have the Drake armor, which is, I'm running out of time now. I got 2 days left. I don't like my chances, and that's kind of frustrating. But yeah, I mean, that was, that's really kind of it, just sort of, I'm taking a long vacation. I got a lot of prep to do. I got a lot of other stuff that needs attention. So I kind of just checked in with WoW and did the stuff that I needed to get done for the week. And that was about it.
Well, I'll throw in my tip for this week from my play experience, because we're going to talk about Traveler's Log. We're going to talk about the rewards this month, but there's one reward. The final reward for this month is spectacular and amazing, and you must have it. Everyone's going to want to have one of these. So I basically dove right in, and we'll tell you what that is shortly. Basically dove right in and decided that I wanted to try and cap this out right away, because with this month being so busy, and with BlizzCon and with travel and all sorts of stuff, I really wanted to be sure that I didn't miss the opportunity to get this reward. So I was going through the Traveler's Log, since I'm not currently raiding, seeing what the fastest way to do that is. And there's a Traveler's Log reward for fishing up a fish head at the Dark Moon Fair out of the waters and wearing that fish head through a dungeon and completing the dungeon. This fish head, the dungeon achievement, works for killing Corin Direbrew. So for this week only, while this is going on,
wow,
go fish up a fish head out of the Dark Moon Fair, put the fish head on, queue for Corin Direbrew, and when you kill him, you will get not just the reward for killing Corin Direbrew, which exists within the Traveler's Log, you'll also get the reward for wearing a fish head and finishing a dungeon. So that was a beautiful double up on points to be able to get a whole bunch of points. There's also a few others for Dark Moon Fair that obviously is going to be wrapping up on Saturday, so be sure you get out and do these quickly. If you're doing it, one of them is talking to a ghost at the fair. In order to do this, you actually have to be dead to talk to a ghost, so take off your armor and anger a wolf, and the wolf will kill you very quickly, and then you can run around and find a ghost in the northwest area of Dark Moon Fair and actually get some more Traveler's Log stuff for that. There's a bunch of little ways, but the Corin Direbrew fish head thing to me was a wonderful. I was like, let's just try it. Let's just see if this works. Little min-max coming out of me here. As opposed to having to run a whole dungeon, let's just see if I can put on a fish head and talk to Corin Direbrew, and yep, that worked. So if you haven't been doing any of the Oktoberfest stuff that they've got going on for this, be sure that you're doing the sausage eating competition. The sausage eating competition is also worth a bunch of points. So lots of little things like that you can get points out of. And I think it took me all of an hour and a half to get my full month capped. And that was just like I caught 50 fish in Pandaria, and I did some quests, and I did some, dream stuff, and got some dust, and that, I capped myself up pretty quickly. So it isn't hard to do, and you're gonna want this month's reward. So we'll chat about that. But first, you got something else?
I was going to say there's a ton of stuff to do, even if you are not doing like end game.
Yep.
Like they add so many activities, and also what you're saying about the fish head, like that'll probably work for Headless Horseman too. So if you don't have time to play today, Thursday, Friday while Corin's still up, in another couple weeks we got Headless Horseman starting up, and it'll probably work for that too. So
the fish head will be gone because it's Dark Moon Fair, so you have to do it during Dark Moon Fair.
Do they expire when Dark Moon Fair ends?
Well, you wouldn't be able to get the fish head. You can only catch the fish head in Dark Moon Fair.
But can you like stash one, or if you have them? I mean, I think I have some.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, if you can stash them, then yeah.
I think you can. I don't think they expire. Yeah, you'd have to catch one this week, but you have until Saturday night for that. Brewfest ends Friday afternoon.
I caught it in like 10 casts at Dark Moon Fair, so it's not hard to catch. Right. There's two different ones. There's the Crimson one and the Azure one. It doesn't matter which one you catch. You just put it on your head. It's on your head for an hour. It transfers with shapeshift form. So if I turn into my owl form, I'm an owl with a fish head, going around. If I'm a boomkin, I'm a boomkin with a fish head. If I'm a stag, I'm a stag with a fish head. It just goes on all the forms, which is hilarious for druids. But yes, so I'm definitely curious if people in my group for Corin Direbrew were staring at me funny as I was standing there as a boomkin with a fish head, or when I did the chow down competition as a person with a fish head doing sausage eating and drinking. Those things happened. It was hilarious.
That must look really weird.
It was. So yeah, so we'll jump into what's going on this week, and we'll bounce back down to what's happening in Traveler's Log once we do that. All right, it is another double up week. So this week in World of Warcraft, we have the Burning Crusade time walking event going on, where the Sign of the Twisting Nether buff is up, increasing your reputation gains from combat and quest by 50%. And characters can go and participate in Blood Furnace, Botanica, Magister's Terrace, Mana Tombs, Shattered Halls, and Underbog for some additional rewards. If you complete 5 of these, you get yourself a cache of Heroic Avarice loot. The dungeons themselves are dropping 389 eye-level gear that's on the Adventurer upgrade track, so that's the 1 of 8 adventurers. And of course, there's a time-walking vendor who sells off mounts and pets and toys, and also gear at 372 item level. So certainly something that's worth checking out. This also means that we have Black Temple, as Jason mentioned earlier, going on right now in Time Walking, where groups of 10 to 30 players can head into Black Temple, get themselves some 415 eye-level loot for max-level characters, as well as if you're someone who has the Warglaives of Azeroth and you kill Illidan in the Time Walking dungeon version, of Black Temple, you can get yourself the transmog for the Warglaze of Azeroth as a demon hunter. So definitely worthwhile doing.
Yeah, I think the time walking raid tuning, I mean, I've now recently done, since 10.1.7 came in and we had this change to the event quest that you could pick up from the vendor, where you can get the gear cache and the cosmetic items every time from the raid that this event comes around. Like, the tuning feels really good. These are like fast runs, they're simple. It's not like you have to really block out any kind of intense strat. It's basically just tank and spank, and if this thing happens, maybe pay attention to it. That's like most of the fights. And I mean, when did Black Temple come out? 2007. It's not a very complex raid in terms of how the fights work compared to what we're used to these days.
It felt it. It felt it back then.
It felt it, yeah. Well, I mean, one of the hardest parts of Black Temple back then was navigating the trash. Like, the trash was just brutally hard and required a lot of prep, and the game doesn't work like that anymore. So I think the raid tuning is super favorable. If your crew wants to play WoW, but everybody's kind of burned on Aberrus, like, this is a great thing to do this week. Have people bring alts, because your equipped item level doesn't matter, whatever. Get in there, do it, kill some bosses, get some 415 plus, and then get 2 pieces of heroic gear for maybe like an hour's worth of work in Black Temple. It's amazing. It's so fun.
Yeah, definitely. The Battleground bonus event is also going on right now, where the Sign of Battle buff is up, increasing honor gains from Battleground objectives and wins by 50%, as well as a quest to win 4 random Battlegrounds, giving you some marks of honor and some conquest. You can also complete 5 heroic dungeons, because the fighting is its own reward. Quest is still up, granting you 415 eye level trophy chest or 15 Drake Shadowflame crests, as well as some reputation for you as well. Cooking Impossible is back as the brawl for this week. So Nomi is back, and he wants you to bring your most dangerous pots and pans to the Valley of the Four Winds for a new brawl in the kitchen, which reminded me actually of another thing, Traveler's Log-wise, which is going to be the theme of this episode. No, I'm just kidding. Because I did this, there's literally a Traveler's Log reward for 50 points for just tilling the earth at your garden back in Valley of the Four Winds. So if you just go there and pick one plot and till the earth, you get points. It's super easy.
I assume it's like Miss Pandaria anniversary kind of themed. I mean, Pandaria came out in late September of 2012, so this would be maybe for that. Yeah, there's a lot of Pandaria stuff this month.
Yeah. Anyways, Cooking Impossible. You basically are on one of 2 teams. Each team is trying to cook a fancy dish and requires special ingredients to do so, which you will go out into the fields and gather those ingredients, either from killing, rams and bulls and whatnot and gathering meat, or from picking vegetables and bringing them back to your pot and throwing them into the soup bowl so that nobody can cook up something tasty. Your objective is to stop your other team from finishing their dish first. So if that means that you are trying to steal ingredients from them, or take them down as they're trying to take down ingredients, or just being disruptive around their soup bowl so they can't turn in their ingredients because you're just knocking them back and stopping them from doing so while your team finishes doing it, that is the objective of Cooking Impossible. It is the most brawly of brawls, in my opinion. It's a great one out there if you haven't tried it yet. And it's such a beautiful place to be, because I just love Valley of the Four Winds. It's just a beautiful zone that it's a good time. I definitely recommend checking out some Cooking Impossible.
Yeah, super fun. It's a lot, weirder. We talk about brawls every week, and sometimes it's just like, hey, here's this thing, that there's this little twist to it. This is a completely separate mode. It isn't really that much like anything else in the pool. Also, this is probably some kind of pre-BlizzCon viral marketing for that Nomi-themed cooking game we were talking about last week. So
could be, yes, it could be.
They knew, they knew it was coming. It's time to start priming the pump for the Nomi game. So you got to get Cooking Impossible into Dragonflight.
That's right. Dejar and Duo, the Zukeli Elders are up inside Zeralek Cavern, dropping some 415 high level loot if that's something you're looking for. We also have the Mythic Plus affixes for the week being Fortified, Entangling, and Bolstering. So non-boss enemies have more health and deal increased damage. While in combat, Entangling Vines periodically appear and snare players. And when any non-boss enemies die, its Deathcry empowers nearby allies, temporarily increasing their damage by 20%. So if you're heading into Mythic Plus this week, keep in mind, Trash is going to be a little bit more dangerous, because not only do you have Fortified, you have Bolstering, so you have every opportunity to make one mob really big who then one-shots your tank. That tends to be what ends up happening in a lot of cases. Now, when it comes to entangling, you can use snare removals, you can use shape-shifting, you can use anything that lets you escape from this kind of grab, or you can just run far enough away and it snaps. It's not really a major affix. It's not doing a huge amount of damage or something to the player. It's not something that's going to cause players to have to switch targets in a big way to do anything like that. So at least in this case, it is movement-based. It can trip you up, literally, if you are inside a situation where there's like a pool on the ground or something you're not supposed to stand in or get out of. I can certainly picture a lot of Shadowlands dungeons that have a lot of like instant you're dead mechanics if you don't get out of them fast enough. So I'm kind of glad we're not dealing with entangling there. But as otherwise, fortified bolstering is a bit dangerous. It's not the worst kind of dangerous. It just means the AoE cleave that you normally do, you want to be more balanced with, and Trash is going to be alive a little bit longer. So don't build a boss, is what it comes to. And if you do, just stay away from it for long enough. The bolstering will wear off and you can then deal with it then. At least it's not boosting its health anymore. Right, Jason?
Yeah, stuff is still going to die, luckily. I mean, it's fortified Trash, so it's going to die a little more slowly. But, yeah, I like new bolster way better than old bolster. Yeah. I'll take it any day of the week. Yeah, entangling, like, the thing that sucks about entangling is it happens all the time, including on boss fights, right? But it is not usually that hard to deal with. And if you bring, like, a paladin buddy and you can sweet talk them into hitting you with their blessing of freedom, and then they have the talent where they also get the blessing when they put it on you, then you don't have to do anything, really. But, yeah, it is a snare, so anything you have that'll break a snare will deal with it. I mean, the problem is, I guess, there are some bosses where having to move when you don't want to can be a big problem. Dragon Boss and Vortex Pinnacle, for example, that's a fun one to do with entangling, but it's Fort Week, so bosses are going to die pretty fast. Let's see. I did an underrot last night. I think it was a 20, and it was fine. We had a little problem getting out of the starting blocks there in the first hallway.
First hallway is always sloppiness. The first 3 pull. Well, first, I mean, technically it's only supposed to be 1 pull. That first 1 pull is really hard because it ends up as 3 pulls, and then you end up in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to kind of get going there, I think, because they're so front loaded. So we had a little sloppiness and a couple deaths at the beginning, but it wasn't, it wasn't enough to even give us any time pressure. We had a few minutes left by the time we finished it, and it felt good. I mean, even with the entangling on the bosses, like the bosses were dying at a comfortable pace. I don't know. I think this is a pretty good week. Like, yes, you have to be aware of bolstering, but I mean, your tank should be ready to take that extra damage if stuff is getting bolstered or whatever. Kiting is always an option too, right? If you don't want to take the damage,
right?
Fine, you could do that. Entangling certainly has a lot of counterplay, so I don't know. I mean, overall, I barely noticed. I mean, to be honest, I barely noticed bolstering last night in that underrot that we were doing. But then again, a lot of that trash like fixates on somebody, so maybe the healer was noticing it more than I was, right? Like the screechers and all that, like they just pick a target, so they're not attacking me whether they're bolstered or not. And yeah, I don't know. The affixes really didn't come into play that much. It was just a quick run. It was fun. I think it's a pretty good week, and if you can bring more, comp type solutions to entangling and bolstering, even better. I mean, if you can stun stuff up, then it's not going to do increased damage because it's doing no damage. So, I think this is one of those weeks that is not. It's not mega dungeon dependent. There are maybe some dungeon dependency concerns, like for example, if you can choose Underrot over Vortex Pinnacle, like the position we were in last night, probably choose Underrot, right? But like overall, I don't think like this makes any dungeon, I don't know, unapproachable or something. And comp can just if you make like some particular comp or build choices, that can just make it that much easier. So I think really good week for keys.
Yeah. Brewfest is continuing until Friday. It ends this Friday, October 6th, is when it goes away. And all those people who are putting in hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of attempts to get their orange Brewfest Bulwark Shield mug, or their Brew Barrel toy, or their Brewfest Drake armor from Corendire Brew will be running out of time here. So if you're someone who wants to take advantage of not only the Traveler's Log benefits of getting in there and doing some things for that, but also getting those last attempts in for the transmogs and toys and whatnot that you might want, or just earning up the tokens to buy the ones you don't have yet. Get out there, participate in Brewfest, be sure that you're taking advantage. Man, oh man, I've been seeing some Twitter threads from some folks who have been trying to get the Drake armor for an extremely long time and haven't gotten it yet, and it's getting frustrating for them. And I feel your pain because we probably have one Brewfest left inside Dragonflight's lifespan, Jason. We're probably hitting that point, and it's going to be a little weird if you don't get it during that, and then we don't have dragon riding as being as prominent in the next expansion.
Right. I mean, you figure we're going to have like dynamic flying. If you pay attention to a lot of official communicate, if you pay as much attention to official communications as I do,
right,
you've heard the term dynamic flying more than once, which I think is what they're going to rebrand what we currently call dragon riding once we're kind of out of the dragon theme. I guess the question will be, you know, are there going to be other mounts that you can use your customizations on? We know we're getting that owl from Mythic Guardians of the Dream raid, right? So like that, maybe you could put customizations on that, and maybe this would be one of them. Maybe old mounts will be somehow retrofitted so the customizations work on them. Or maybe you're just like, well, I'm just going to use the ones I can customize because I think they're cool. So that's going to be my choice. I think it's okay. This is frustrating though, for sure, because we like to collect stuff as WoW players. We like to complete our collections.
Yep.
And this is a thing that seemed like it was just going to be, okay, I do my due diligence, I do my daily core and dire brew, and I'll have it. And a lot of people don't have it. This seems to be a lot rarer drop rate than we kind of maybe thought it would be. And also, you know, I was doing it. I've done it daily on at least one character every day of the event. And many days I've done it on 6 or 7 or 9 characters, depending on the state of whether or not the treasure chest would drop at level 60. And, I read some Wowhead comments and stuff, and the way it looks is like you have an extremely boosted chance to your first kill of the day per account. And after that, it's essentially not worth doing. If you have nothing better to do, you might get lucky. So that's, you can do that. But almost everybody in the Wowhead comment thread when I was checking it a couple days ago was like, I got it on the first kill of the day after a week and a half or whatever. Once in a while, somebody's like, I got it on the second kill of the day, but it's almost never. One guy said, I think he had I forget how many tunes he said he was doing on a daily basis. And he was like, in my analysis, it's just not worth doing this. Like, I ended up getting it on the first kill of the day on, whatever tune. So I don't know. I don't know why they do stuff like that. I mean, I know they want to I guess they want to discourage you from being like, oh, let me level up some more tunes to 60 for this holiday thing. It's like, just put it on the vendor. How about that? I don't know. They want us to have stuff to chase, and everybody who doesn't get it is going to be gunning for it next year when Brewfest comes around. So it's like a built-in thing to do for Brewfest. It kind of stinks because I have everything else, and I'd like to just check this off the list and say that I am caught up through 2023 with Brewfest. But hey, maybe I get lucky. I got a couple more shots at it. But I guess what I would say is if you've been tearing through this on a big stable of alts, probably just don't just save yourself the frustration, because you're just going to be tacking on numbers that probably aren't going to drop the thing. If you're just going with the flow because you're killing time, you got nothing else to do anyway, fine. But if it's making you feel bad, then just stop and save yourself the emotional damage. Do it once a day and move on. That'd be my advice, and I've largely done that the last week or so.
I don't think players had the idea in mind, I guess, the intention in mind that this was going to be the next Love Rocket situation, and it's feeling more and more like it's becoming that, right? Yeah. It's feeling more based off I've seen people do 700 plus attempts at trying to get this thing and not gotten it, and that's spread across a bunch of characters. And as you said, after you do it once during the day when you have the highly increased chance, obviously that chance drops substantially, so it isn't necessarily worth doing. But to folks like this who really, really, really want it, they're willing to take that substantially low chance of trying to get it. And so it's brutal to watch people really trying this hard to get it. And it's not I don't know, it circles back to a conversation about grindable rewards and being like, yeah, you know what, if you put in the time, you should eventually be able to get what you want. And when there's rewards like this, where it's like, no, that's not necessarily the truth. You could put in 10,000 attempts and not get it, even though statistically speaking, you should have. It's frustrating, right, for players in those situations. So yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with it. Like I said, I think there'll be one more Brewfest before we move out of Dragonflight, and Dragon Armor becomes one of those things that you're like, oh yeah, I don't use that mount anymore because I now have this really cool dynamic flying mount that I want to ride around all the time. So I don't really care if I get this anymore. It's not as important to me. I hope people can get it when they can still enjoy it. That's what I want. That's what I'm here for.
I mean, we're all going to be using them no matter what for the next probably year. So yeah, it would be nice. I mean, I don't know. I guess like this thing that softens the blow for me is that I spent the gold on the Pirates Day armor, which I would just use. Even if I get this in the next 2 days, I'm not going to use it because I'm about the infinite pirate dragon life. So that, that's okay for me, I guess. But if this is really the thing you want, like if you're like a, brewmaster main or something, and this is what you need to really, complete the look, like, oh man, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
For something this silly, it's not even like a mount on its own. It's just a thing that goes on top of whatever mount you already have. Like, it's just, the rarity and the lack of streak protection really feels bad.
Yes. Well, as I mentioned top of the show, that combined with this, Dark Moon Fair is going on, so you can get that fish head and go kill Corden Direbrew and get some extra Traveler's Log stuff. You can also ride the merry-go-round, which is more Traveler's Log stuff. You can also bonk Hogger on the head. That's more Traveler's Log stuff. There's a whole bunch of things in Dark Moon Fair you can take advantage of if you want some quick points that way. You can also get yourself some more profession skill ups or profession knowledge if you want, by doing some of the events that are happening there at Dark Moon Fair, as well as some more tokens for your dirigible, that buff that increases your experience and reputation gain, seeing the different bands that are there, participating in the dance stuff that happens there, or if you just want to play Minesweeper. It's all down there at Dark Moon Fair. So take advantage while you can before Saturday, because it's going away on Saturday.
Yeah, get your profession knowledge, unless you are maxed out. In which case, then probably don't bother, because trading it in for Artisan's Metal isn't really too attractive. But if you're not maxed out, it's free points. Don't forget to do it while it's up this month.
Eastern Kingdom Cup kicks off today. That is today, beginning in Veldraken, Stormwind, and Orgrimmar. You are basically going to be going out and participating in 14 different races spread across Eastern Kingdoms. There's going to be like reverse courses, advanced courses, normal courses, all sorts of different variations that you can participate in. Going to be able to get yourself some fancy flight rewards that go along with that, with brand new dragon customizations for the Winding Slither Drake, as well as some renewed Proto Drake, stuff that's in there. Just a whole bunch of stuff that's going along reward wise. So be sure you're taking part in those rewards. I guess like when it comes down to it, if you're really loving dragon riding and you want yourself some rewards, it's worth doing. You can certainly get some achievements and stuff along with that too, which I imagine will become feats of strength unless they plan on bringing these things back. So if you're someone who really likes locking in that, do you want another knuckle sandwich feat of strength? You can certainly go out and get yourself, another feat of strength from this kind of stuff. So looking forward to it kicking off. You got Blasted Lands, Booty Bay, Deadwind Derby, Elwyn Forest Flash, Fuse Light Night Flight, the Gilneas Gambit, and Grubashi Gala. You also have the Red Ridge Rally, Plaguelands Plunge, Lochmodan Loop, Ironforge Interceptor, and the Twilight Terror, as well as the Searing Slalom for you to participate in as far as all these go. There's lots of different zones and fun things to do. The Ironforge one is super interesting to me. I haven't done it yet today. I wasn't around when it kicked off today and didn't have the time to do it, but I want to know what that one is, because they have those vents up in the top of Ironforge that people fly through, and I swear they're going to use them, and I'm going to be really curious about how it all works. So I imagine you probably go down by the actual molten iron in the core of the forge probably at some point. Looking forward to trying it out.
Yeah, I did a bunch of these this morning. I'm like 2/3 of the way done with golds.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just getting after it because I don't have a lot of time here. I have to get this done this week, otherwise it's not going to be done. And I think the only thing I'm really gunning for is the title, because I got the Kalimdor title, so I have to get the Eastern Kingdoms title.
Right.
The Ironforge one, you do not go around the city. Oh. I do not think. And also, much to my surprise, there was no Blackrock Mountain one, but there is the Deadwind Derby is in Karazhan, so that's the next one on my list. That's about where I ran out of time to do it earlier today. Yeah, the Ironforge one was kind of hard from what I remember, but I mean, so far I'm moving along pretty well. I haven't. If there's one that I'm going to get badly stuck on, I haven't found it yet. Thank goodness.
Do you go into the city at all, or do you just fly around the outside of the city?
I think you're just outside of it. If I remember,
so that makes sense from a Horde Alliance perspective to not have Horde characters flying around through the city. Makes sense, you know.
Yeah, right. Like, because there's one in Dunmorrow too, and it's like, yeah, all the Horde players are like insta flagged, right? Like,
exactly.
They have their. For me, I'm playing Alliance, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that is a concern, sort of, in these old zones, I guess. Like, you don't want to get griefed because you're just trying to do the dragon riding.
Exactly.
So, or like we get attacked by guards or whatever. So, I mean, you know, to your point about like, are these going to become feats or whatever? Like, this has to just stay in the game. Like, this is too fun. It's too cool of a use of the existing content. Like, put it on a rotation and just have these cups up there so people can do them at their convenience, you know, even if you're going to just put them up for like 2 weeks at a time or whatever and rotate one at a time. I mean, the new stuff to collect, if you're all the way caught up, is not super expensive. I think it's like 50 or 25 tokens per customization. So it's not a lot, but it might be a thing that is more efficient to do by taking multiple tunes and doing the intro quest and all that and getting the bonuses, you know, just to get to 25 really quick or whatever to buy that next one. But I mean, I think these events have been super cool. I've been having fun with this one so far today. And I think it's just a great way to have something kind of more casual to do, you know, and that you could put in like any content. It doesn't matter that it's an Elwyn Forest or whatever, right? Like that sort of just enhances it. In fact, is that it's there and players can just engage with it however they want to. The only problem is the time crunch, but I think that if it was me, I would say, okay, guys, we've rolled this all out to every continent. Now we're going to start a rotation where once a month there's going to be 2 weeks of, you know, a dragon riding cup. And then we're going to rotate each continent through. Like, I was kind of relieved that there wasn't like a new super expensive transmog set to buy or anything, right? Like, I think that if I was going to shoot for one thing, it would be something like that. So I don't have to, since I'm caught up from Kalimdor, I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, definitely check this out. It's super fun, and I would say it's probably more, if you're not interested in it, it's probably more fun than you think it is. Because I wasn't really interested in it at all at first, and I started doing it, and I was like, I need this achievement and I need this title and I need all of the stuff from this vendor. Like, let's do this. And, you know, then I kind of knew I was just dialed in for the Eastern Kingdoms one too.
Yeah. I before we dive into what's going on in the actual hot fixes that are out there, though, I do want to talk a little bit about Trading Post because we have the October Trading Post kicking off. We've been talking a bit about it earlier on. So let's dive into that. Trading Post this month, big reward. The thing that I've sort of been, you know, advertising a lot is in fact the broomstick. You actually get a broomstick. I mentioned it earlier that I was looking forward to getting a broomstick at some point, and there it is. So we basically get to head over to the trading post. You got yourself the Death Knight armor, the Demon Hunter armor, and the Druid armor. So I picked up my Druid pieces, including the Ashmane's Blessings Rebirth stuff, as well as the actual vestments of Rebirth. I then also picked up the High Scholar's Grand Staff because it's also really cool looking. So I spent a whole bunch on that stuff. I got the Imp in a Ball because I just didn't have it yet, and it's a cool toy, and I wanted it, so I got that too. And I was able to get the cloak and the hood with feathers on it because I thought that was also really cool looking. I have to say the chainmail that they have, the shadowy and the gleaming chainmail, looks really good, and it would be very tempting if I played a character that wore that sort of armament because it's wicked looking. So yeah, definitely participate because, man, the broomstick is awesome looking. It's so worthwhile getting. And it's something that everyone's wanted since we had the like temporary broom mounts way back in the day that everyone loved getting on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the first time they've done a permanent mount that's like, you know, a witch's broom kind of thing. Yeah, a lot of cool rewards this month, which is kind of a surprise to me because you have those big meatballs hanging out there for the class-specific stuff. So, I mean, granted, if you don't play one of those classes, then those things aren't interesting. But if you do play one of those classes, then that's, you know, 950 tender that you might be willing to put up just for that stuff. Yeah, the chainmail looking tabards are really cool. If you're going for like a particular kind of look, they're perfect for that. And they're really kind of unique. I don't really feel like
No, there's nothing like
there's
it.
been much that looks like those. Yeah, especially in that armor slot for sure. And they're, I mean, they're relatively cheap. Might be worth buying just on that basis, as that it's like, its own kind of look. I don't know what I'm going to do here, because originally I thought when they announced all the class and weapon sets, like, oh, well, I'm just going to buy them for each of the tank classes, since, that's what I like to play and I want to collect that stuff and whatever. And then I really had some kind of buyer's remorse over the paladin stuff. Like, the fact that it doesn't all go together just really bummed me out. I felt like it was a lot of tender that I was spending on stuff that didn't fit together. So I don't know. I might still end up just buying this stuff anyway. I think I have the tender between the income that I'll get for November and December and what I'm currently sitting on. I think I have enough to do the other 5 tank classes and still have some left over. But because I don't really usually spend a lot of my tender from month to month. But I don't know. I might end up passing on these. Oh. I mean, like with the druid stuff is cool, but you play a guardian druid. When do you ever see your character's armor anyway?
Yeah, if you're tanking, you don't. The only reason the druid one caught my eye, and I talked about this before when they were first announcing these sets, is it's really similar to a set that came out during Legion, and it would mean that as opposed to being an owl, you can be a panther, which I think is kind of neat as far as that goes. Like, it actually is. It's one of those weird sets where you're like, oh, this doesn't go together with anything else other than this other set that I've earned ages ago. The next chunk of transmog doesn't go with this, or the weapon stuff doesn't line up with this. But it doesn't matter because this lines up with the previous transmog I have. So it lets me do something different with an older transmog that I already enjoyed. So that made it worthwhile to me. But I entirely feel like we're getting even new Boomkin forms coming out soon that people I'm sure are going to want to use over the Celestial stuff that's out there too. So, how often do you actually get to see this armor? I would love it if things like this included armor that went on your actual shapeshift form, right? So if this meant that you had different armor pieces that connected to your bear and looked a different color or looked a different way or whatever it was, that would be really wicked. And I imagine that's something that the artists would be really keen on doing, but they need time to do it and permission to do it. So we got to figure that out
like
first.
Anything else, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like the class armor is sort of made to put a different spin on an existing set, right? And not sort of be the basis of its own set, which is cool. And the fact that the weapons are like mismatched in terms of the color scheme is just unfortunate. So I don't really know what I'm going to do with this. I might end up just buying it out for all 3 classes and saying, you know what, I'll be done with it. I'm sure these will come back someday. They invested way too much in building and releasing these, so there's no way this is like one and done forever. I'm sure they'll rotate through once they've all been out, but I might just end up getting them just to have them in case, but I don't know. I also might talk myself out of it entirely, and I'll just get the warrior stuff because it's for warrior, so I have to have it. That would make sense to me because I will always play the warrior a lot. So even if a thing doesn't work with anything I'm using right now, there will always be new stuff for the warrior. So like there's no decision there for the warrior, but for the classes I don't play as much, I don't know. Maybe I'll just save the tender.
Yeah. But yes, get out there, get your broomstick to ride around on in this spooky of months, and be joyful about it. I think it's wicked. All right, hot fixes for the month. They have scaled down the number of creatures on Mechagon Island. They scaled down a number of creatures on Mechagon Island, so they're less lethal to low-level players. I think this makes perfect sense because people want to level up through BFA, and it only makes sense to allow people to do so without getting absolutely destroyed by creatures that are on Mechagon Island, because that island's painful enough as is.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on out there, but it sounds like it was pretty dangerous. Yeah. I completed the meta and never went back to Mechagon Island, so I don't know what's going on out there.
Yeah. Bragder Battle Brew has no longer an alliance. Well, I guess our bribes have worn off as the alliance because he's now offering the Brew of the Month Club to the Horde again as intended. Whatever alliance members were pooling together our coin to make sure we only got the brews and the Horde didn't. That's over now.
Alliance bias confirmed as usual. Yeah.
In hardcore realms, mind control spells cannot be used during normal duels. This is a developer change because apparently people were using mind control spells during Makara duels to the death. And yeah, you shouldn't be. That's just like, I cannot imagine how painful it is to accept a Makara duel, have someone mind control you and walk you off a cliff and be like, haha, I win. Like, it's just.
Well, you can still do that. This is just for the regular duels. But that is a good reason not to accept a Makara duel from a priest.
I just mean in general, like, I think it should be
Probably
both,
don't do
man.
that.
I think it should be both that you can't do that. Like, it's just.
I think anything goes. If you decide, you know what, this is to the death, then you should assess the situation. And if you accept a duel to the death with a priest, then you might get mind controlled and walked off a cliff.
Or walk into a bunch of mobs. Yeah, one of the two.
So, behave accordingly, I guess. That's just know your environment, right? But for normal duels, right, those stakes aren't on the table.
Death. Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, like
so they shouldn't be killing your character by walking them off a cliff, yeah.
Yeah, because they easily could. They could easily make something terrible happen to you. When you thought you were just going to have a duel, see, work on some, I don't know, PvP stuff, whatever, just like have fun with the duel system. You're not signing up for like, well, if this goes wrong, I'm playing a new character next.
Yeah.
I think it's a good, it's just funny. The visual of that like struck me really funny. But man, that would suck though if you accepted just a regular duel and then you got MC murdered. Nobody wants that.
Yep. All right, there's a crossover happening with BlizzCon coming up at the end of the month. We have Warcraft Rumble is going to be popping off in Azeroth, basically. They have a quest chain that you just get when you sort of check your mailbox. And when you get the letter in the mailbox, it puts you on a quest chain to collect up all these little toys, Jason. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience collecting the toys?
Oh, yeah. So this went live yesterday afternoon, and a bunch of stuff just showed up in the inn in Valdrakken. And Rare Scanner went off, and I picked a bunch of stuff up, and I turned it in to this NPC that was there, and then I made a mistake because I broke some stuff. But the thing to know about this is if you haven't played the game or you haven't done any of this yet, check your mail. They decided to start the quest chain by sending you an item in the mail. And the mail gives you an auto-accept quest to talk to Mizzen, who is the Warcraft Rumble fanatic, who is the NPC that you deal with for this stuff. If you're level 60 or higher, it will send you to Valdrakken, to the Roasted Ram. If you are under level 60, you will go to Orgrimmar or Stormwind, and Mizzen is in those places as well with a Rumble machine. And, I mean, it's pretty simple, right? The idea is there are 7 Rumble coins stashed around Stormwind, Orgrimmar, and the Dragon Isles. And each one of those coins, you put it in the machine, and you get a box. You open the box, and you throw a Rumble mini on the ground, and then you earn the toy for whatever that mini is. You can't get duplicates, so as long as you can pick up all 7 coins and turn them in, then you will get all 7 minis. The other thing is there are foils, which are items that you return to the machine, and then you can unlock a new or like upgraded appearance for each of your mini toys. There are 14 of these throughout the Dragon Isles, Orgrimmar, and Stormwind, because there's 2 upgraded appearances for each mini. So there's a bunch of stuff to collect. You get an achievement for each thing you collect and for each appearance that you upgrade on it and everything. So it's really cool. The only problem is a bunch of us super early adopters ended up turning in a foil when we didn't have any minis yet. So there was no toy to apply it to, and we sort of just ate a foil. So that stinks. I would like to have my last appearance, and I'd like to have the whole meta achievement done and everything. So I've opened a ticket. I know some other people have as well. I'm hoping there's a fix in the offing, and maybe they just send us a foil or whatever. Would be nice because I would like to complete all this. But they made the official announcement yesterday, like right as this was going live in WoW, that Rumble was officially launching November 3rd, which is BlizzCon Friday. This was a cool promotion. Rumble is sort of in that Hearthstone type of space in that like it's supposed to be a game that exists in Azeroth, like Azerothians would be playing Rumble, right? And the prop they made for the Rumble machine is awesome looking in the game. Like it's so cool. Just the 3D object it looks like a big arcade machine with like, it looks like it looks in the pre-rendered cinematics and everything, but it looks great inside the game. And I've been playing Rumble a lot. I got it in the beta over the summer, and they took the beta away from me for a little while, but it came back, and I have spent quite a bit of time in Rumble. It's a super fun game. Its scope is relatively small, but it's very deep. There's a lot to do with collecting your minis and leveling them up and upgrading their quality and unlocking talents for them, and then how you set your army up and like kind of what your army excels at, like what it's good at, and then how you apply that to whatever your mission is. The campaign is really long, and it goes through like most of the zones of Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, and there's dungeons that are themed around, like vanilla dungeons and stuff. And it's a super fun game, actually. Like I play it every day for at least like an hour, I think, at this point. It's a great game to play when I'm kind of like done with WoW or whatever I'm doing for the evening. Everybody's in bed, and I want to kind of just chill, maybe put the TV on and like mess with a game for a little bit. It's perfect for that. So it's super fun. I've really been enjoying it. It's so Warcrafty is the thing about it. It's not like
very Warcrafty. Yeah.
Like it is a Warcraft game from top to bottom. It's in a weird way, it's like a successor to Warcraft 3. It's sort of like redoing vanilla WoW kind of in this context of like a Clash of Clans or whatever, but I think it's more fun than any games like that I played before. So really cool, I think, addition to the Warcraft family. And I think the crossover is fun. I mean, you can the thing is, like, if you want all the stuff, you kind of do need an Alliance character and a Horde character, and you need a 60-plus character with some degree of dragon riding, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't really just log in on a fresh account and get all 21 of these things you need to collect, because you have to be able to dragon ride up the stuff and whatever. And you could probably, like, on an Alliance character, swoop into Org and try to scoop the stuff up before you get murdered, but that might still be kind of hard. So, if you have that stuff, it does make it a lot easier. But really cool promotion. It was a total surprise. I figured they would do something as Rumble's release kind of became imminent, and Rumble kind of soft launched in most of the world already. In a lot of places where people are probably listening to the show, you could just go to your app store right now and download Rumble and play it. It's actually not out in the US right now. And there are other markets where it's not out yet. So they're holding that big launch for November 3rd, which I think as we started getting closer, a lot of us started to go, they're probably just going to launch this at BlizzCon, right?
Yeah.
And, so yeah, here we are.
While you're waiting in line on Friday to get into the con, you'll be sitting there playing Rumble, right? That's,
all I can say is, like, I'm super glad I'm in the beta so I can, play it while I'm traveling. I think it's gonna be a lifesaver hanging out in airports and on planes and stuff. So, I mean, you do need an internet connection, unfortunately, like even in the middle of combat for some reason, which is not great, but whatever. I mean, considering how much time I'm going to be on airplanes in the next month, I think it's probably worth it to me to pay for in-flight internet and let Rumble keep me occupied. Yeah, super cool game. And you know what? Even if you don't give any part of a crap about Rumble, you can still log into the game, get 7 really cool toys, and a whole bunch of achievements just for flying around and collecting stuff. So, I dig it. It's very low bar to participate. The rewards are cool. I love collecting toys in the game anyway. I think they're some of the most fun items to collect, really, if not the most fun. So I'm very happy about this. I just hope I can get that foil restored to my account so I can get my last appearance unlocked and get the meta achievement and have all the things, because I'd almost rather have way not enough of the things than have all but one of the things when it comes to a collection, right? So we'll see. I have a feeling that, I know I'm not the only one, and I have a feeling that, a fix will be in the offing, hopefully, because the whole point is to promote Rumble and to advertise it. So you want people to, like, do stuff in the game to consume your advertisement. At least let them get all the stuff they bargained for.
Yeah, now they haven't announced any kind of date range of when this ends, so we don't actually know when this promotion is ending based off of their post. So presumably you have at least till the 4th, if not longer, to be able to collect these toys. So there's no, like, immediacy of needing to do it this week before it goes away kind of thing. You can take your time with it, but it is exciting and it is easy to do, so it's worth hopping out there and grabbing it. Okay, let's dive into some PTR development notes, because we are dealing with a lot of change stuff that's happening now. As far as Mythic Plus goes, the Everbloom will be available for this week's Mythic Plus test. Throne of Tides has now been updated encounters and enemies throughout the dungeon, and the jellyfish elevator has been replaced with a portal, available for testing in Mythic Plus this week. And adjustments to the duration of several story scenes in Dawn of the Infinite on Mythic Plus difficulty have been made as well. The Yalnu encounter in Everbloom has also been updated. So the biggest thing to me here is, hey, no more jellyfish elevator. Because when we first got this announcement of this is what was happening, my first reaction was, oh my god, jellyfish elevator. So yay, I'm glad that they're looking at that.
Can we maybe just remove the jellyfish elevator
in live game
everywhere, like everywhere else? Yeah, like time walking and just like the walk-in dungeon. That would be fine with me.
Yep.
It was cool in 2010. It was very thematic, but it doesn't work great. And yeah, in the timed mode, it's really not what you want. So glad they're out in front of that one. I feel like there may have been eras of the development of this game where they would just launch it like that, and then people would complain about the elevator bugging out or taking way too long, or they missed the timer because of the elevator, and then a couple weeks later they would add a portal. So I'm glad that they know that you cannot have Mythic Plus thrown to the tides with the jellyfish elevator.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a new brawl, which is the Battleground Blitz Brawl. There's adjustments to Eye of the Storm that they are talking about in this brawl, where they slightly increase the resource rate from bases and add a timer widget that will display during the 15-second period when bases are inactive until the next set are active again. There are various power runes that have been added to Eye of the Storm, Battle for Gilneas, Arathi Basin, and Deepwind Gorge, as well as the actual rune buff respawn rates, including Shadow Sight, has been decreased to 60 seconds from 90 seconds. And this also includes already existing power runes in the addition to the new ones introduced in the brawl. So Battleground Blitz is going to be popping off as far as something for people to try out and test. That's going to be something for folks to dig into a little bit. I'm excited to see them playing around with brawls a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is your this is what Solo Shuffle was to arenas. This is Battleground Blitz is to rated Battlegrounds. So I think these changes probably make they make good sense in terms of tuning. You want to keep these games moving, right? And you have like uncoordinated RPGs. You might end up having like really long games or something. Just unfun kind of gameplay loops. So I think probably these things seem like they're gonna up the pace a little bit, and maybe give people a bit more spikiness to try to end the game or progress a game that's maybe kind of approaching a stalemate. So it makes sense. Like I think you probably do need to have maybe slightly different behavior specifically for Battleground Blitz versus a traditional RPG. I don't know. I guess we'll see over time as they get more data and more people participate in it and what have you. But I can understand why you'd want to do this when everybody in the technically rated Battleground is blind queuing into it.
Hunters rejoice, as well as all of the other fixes that we've had coming through with nerfing and buffing and sets changes and all that kind of stuff. Hunters themselves are now getting a raid buff, as though the class needed more motivation to be brought to raid. They did, apparently. Add in the Hunter's Mark, where all damage taken on a target that has Hunter's Mark on it is increased by 5%, while it's above 80% overall health. So they like the idea of Hunter's Mark highlighting a specific target on the battlefield, so we have made an adjustment to Hunter's Mark to cause it to increase all damage taken by 5% on the target while it's above 80% health. When applying Hunter's Mark out of combat or before a pull, it continues to have no cooldown. If you apply Hunter's Mark in combat, it receives a 20-second cooldown, and that's to stop people from just bouncing it around constantly, which would not only be a just unfun way to play Hunter, but also it would be slightly too strong. Hunter's Mark is still on the global cooldown with this change, and multiple hunters cannot stack their Hunter's Marks on the same target. So you're not dealing with, hey, we need to bring in 9 hunters because we can just have this huge amount of damage at the top end of the pole, where we essentially spike the boss down in health really quickly. There have been boss encounters in the past where reaching 80% quickly was important or made the fight easier to do. So I can see this being a big benefit overall. I think it means you want to keep a hunter in your raid, which you already were wanting to do. So great. It just gives them one more thing, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, hunters are, they've been in a spot where like they don't bring like any kind of a raid buff really, I mean, they could fill in with like a Bloodlust or something if you have a really kind of wonky comp for a 2023 group. But this seems pretty cool. I guess a thing to note is like you're going to have to, if you have like a multi-target situation and you have multiple hunters in the group, you want to make sure that you're getting the full value out of this. So, you know, coordinating like who's going to hunters mark what.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like it. I do think, you know, hunters in general have felt really kind of delicate this expansion. I see hunters in my group dying constantly and healers complaining to me about how hard it is to keep hunters alive. And I don't really think that is kind of the way the class should be overall. I think hunter probably needs some overall attention to the, you know, where the class sits in the overall landscape. I don't think hunters mark in this implementation is the thing that maybe they really needed to sort of, you know, set themselves apart or something, but it's cool. I mean, I like the idea of this, and especially, you know, evokers have that Titan killer thing where they do bonus damage, you know, to high health targets, and like all that stuff could lead to some fun bursts at the top of fights and stuff, or when an ad comes out or whatever. So that's cool. I mean, I think this is good. I think it's a nice addition for hunters. But I think for at least the impression I get, I haven't played my hunter at all, and I never have played hunter at a high level, but the hunters that I talk to seem like not super thrilled with the, you know, kind of their overall position in the class landscape. So it's tough. I mean, they kind of pulled the rug out from under everybody, I think, when Dragonflight was coming out, like in a good way. It was time to freshen up, you know, class design overall. And then it became a matter of sort of who needs the most attention, you know, after all that. And let's hit them first, earliest, as much as we can. And you've kind of seen that really almost every patch has had like one class or spec that like this patch is about polishing up this spec, right? Hunter kind of hasn't really had that, and this, like I said, this is a cool addition for the class for sure, but this is not like what Demon Hunter, like what Havoc DH is getting in 10.2. It's just, you know, Hunter hasn't had their moment for that yet.
Yeah. Another fix we want to highlight in this that's kind of like a sleeper change that's coming in that's amazing. The Great Vault is getting changed to no longer be specific about mythic dungeons. It's now just dungeons. That means heroic, mythic 0, time walking. They now all unlock rewards in that dungeon row. These draw from the same resource pool as Mythic Plus with lower item levels. So essentially, time walking runs count as heroic runs as well, which means if you're someone who's doing your time walking for the week and you do your quest to get 5 time walking dungeons done, which currently gets you a 415 piece of loot, you then also get 2 frickin' spots unlocked inside of your vault, if that's something you're wanting to do, which is amazing. So this is a great change coming in for folks who are wanting to catch up on content and gear, but also just like convenience is just really nice about this. It means it's value, like the value there. The Blizzard saying, hey, we value that you're putting time into doing, you know, your time walking for the week is great. Happy to see it.
This is awesome. I mean, it sort of makes you go, oh, where has this been? Like, why wasn't this always like this, actually? Like, now that you see it, it's like, oh, yeah, this just makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. It lets more people participate in the Great Vault system, which, I mean, listen, the Vault feels bad probably more often than not, right? Like, especially this far into a season, but it's still a reward for something that you already did. It's still a net positive. And yeah, this is going to be awesome for when you have that low gear alt that you're like, I'm just going to do time walking and just roll the dice and see if I get something cool. Now you also get a Great Vault piece. That's awesome. It's a big win for, you know, lower level characters. It's a big win for more casual players, and then presumably all this stuff will continue to be upgradable in season 3, so you can, you know, use this as kind of a stepping stone to just keep powering up over the course of the season.
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's an awesome change, and it's definitely going to pay off for me when I get in that mode where I'm just, you know, burning through time walking dungeons on the alt stable.
Right, right. Okay, we got user interface stuff updated. I always like highlighting this stuff. Action bar spell swipe animation has been updated. In the auction house, items with long names will now have their crafted quality icon shown instead of being cut off. These are great things being added in and changed. I just love seeing spell swipe animation stuff updated. That's going to be cool to see. I'm excited to see what it looks like, what the new animation is. It's just, everything's getting more polished, you know? It's just getting shinier as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, the base UI is almost unrecognizable from the way it was like a year ago at this point. And yeah, it's just more stuff coming. I wanted to highlight some changes with professions too. This stuff came in yesterday's build. They are taking the axe to embellishments. Like a ton of stuff is getting like basically made irrelevant, at least as of this current build, including the Frostfire Belt, the Fang Adornments, the Slimy Expulsion Boots, the Toxic Thorn Foot Wraps, the Acidic Hailstone Treads, the Magazine of Healing Darts, the Playful Spirits Fur Set, the Shadow Flame Tempered Armor Patch, and the Spore Colony Shoulder Guards. And if that's not enough, the Shadow Flame Tempered Armor Patch's self-damage is being increased by 33%. So the good thing that it does is getting way worse, and the bad thing that it does is getting also way more bad. I currently use the Frostfire Belt and the Shadow Flame Tempered Armor Patch in my setup, and so I'm going to need 2 new embellishments probably as soon as Season 3 starts. I haven't really seen like if there are new embellishments coming or whatever. I think it's probably cool.
That's my assumption. My assumption in seeing this is, hey, we want to add more variety to the pool and make people not just be using the same thing for the entire expansion all the way through without changing. So we're going to nerf some of these. We'll add some new ones with some different twists. Let's see how professions handle it, and let's get the economy flowing on this stuff again, which I think would be nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with that. I would just like it if I had a picture of like what embellishments are going to be good for Season 3 before you cut the legs out from under the stuff I've been using for months.
This is the issue with PTR notes.
Yeah, right.
It's not a complete picture.
Like, these are huge nerfs. Like, these items are just not going to be I think with that kind of nerf, like on the Frostfire Belt, I'd rather just craft a plain, 447 belt with my preferred stats on it. If the dot proc is getting nerfed that much, so it's it's something else. These are huge changes to a lot of pretty popular embellishments. So, I mean, I think with the way professions are in Dragonflight, you have plenty of opportunity to add cool new stuff in. I am expecting that I will still have embellishments that I like.
Yeah.
There is a mild concern here, though, because like they're clawing back the item level, the top end item level of crafted gear a little bit in Season 3 from Season 2. And now they're, chunking the embellishments down. And it's like, I really want crafted gear to be good. I have invested a lot of time and effort in the crafting system in Dragonflight on my main, and I've used it to great effect for my character and the other plate wearers in my group, right? And it's been really fun. It's very rewarding. It feels cool to be able to just make somebody a baller piece of gear that they can go use for the rest of the season. Like, it's great. It's such a cool feature in this expansion, and I want to hold on to as much of that as possible. And I feel like, removing the top end item level is not that big of a deal, since you can get it and you can get exactly what you want. And, chunking down these old embellishments that have been around for a patch or two in some cases is not that big of a deal, especially if there's new embellishments. But when you combine them together, it starts to sort of change the picture a little bit. So I'm hoping that profession stuff is still going to be desirable in Season 3 and beyond in Dragonflight, whatever that means for this expansion. I think like there are obviously some pitfalls with the profession rework, but overall it's been awesome, and I don't want to give up any power that I can afford not to from that system. I want to be able to deck myself and my friends out with it. So we'll keep an eye on it. Hopefully there'll be cool new stuff added, and it's not just that across the board embellishments are just not as good as they used to be.
Yeah, I've always been advocating for professions to remain relevant and remain powerful throughout an entire expansion. This has been the closest so far that we've ever seen. I'm hoping that they continue with that, and that's why I'm just like putting the trust out there of like they're going to add something. There's going to be something else there. This is them mixing it up and getting the economy flowing again, and getting people interested in the systems and having new ways to learn things. And like I'm hoping that's all this is, which would be great to see. So I'm taking this as like we're seeing just the tip of the iceberg of what's actually happening, and this is just how PTR notes work. You know, we get little chunks here and there, and people react to them, and the internet explodes on fire, and then they go, no, it's okay. There's this other thing coming. You're like, oh, well, why didn't you tell us that in the first place? And that's, you know, it all gets kind of resolved.
Right, like put the new embellishments in the PTR build first. if the goal is like, hey, use the season 3 embellishments, awesome. I want to do that. Yeah. Like I'll go get the recipes and go get the mats and go make cool stuff. But, you know, all we've heard really so far is kind of bad or disappointing news about Professions and Crafted Gear going into season 3. Yeah. I mean, the sky's not exactly falling. Even if they don't do anything else, like you're still going to want to fill in pieces with Crafted Gear or like use that to gear up at the outset of season 3. But, you know, Crafted Gear has felt awesome, especially in season 2. And I like that. So I'd like it to stay that way.
Yeah. All right, we got another update, our monthly update. This one was for September 2023 of recent actions against exploitive accounts. In the total exploitive WoW account actions in September 2023 was 136,014. That is roughly 4,534 accounts per day of the month. All of these actions were for cheating or exploitation, which primarily result in permanent bans or 6-month suspensions. This number does not include other actions being taken against accounts with character name or in-game language violations. They continue to evolve on methods and act against the malicious accounts on a daily basis. Yeah, so again, like just the recognition of how much work it is to ban 4,500 accounts a day and process that and do the investigations for it. And like, oh my God. And you're talking about like the number of player base, right? Like what's the number of player base inside these situations? It's still a massive player base with World of Warcraft. Yes, this expansion hasn't, as much as it's a good expansion, hasn't, as everyone says this, hasn't been taking off as well as it should have, because we're coming out of some really bad, you know, chunks of time for not just the company, but for the game. You still have this large popular player base that's involved in playing it, and there's still, you know, that amount of people who are being dicks and deserve to get booted, you know, is what it is.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is they have been consistent with this in the last few months since they said they were going to have like a monthly report about it. And, you know, I think botting is probably a much bigger problem in, you know, classic versions of World of Warcraft because the game is probably just more exploitable overall. But, you know, what you hear all the time is just ban the bots. And like they do that. It's not the whole picture. And you can ban 4,500 accounts a day, most of which are probably bots. And the problem will always exist because there's a secondary market for WoW, you know, like you have the botting because you need gold so that you can sell gold or whatever. And then obviously you have people who are cheating or doing something they shouldn't be doing with their accounts. That's another part of it. But I would imagine that the bots are probably like the biggest slice of the pie here. And yeah, I mean, you know, we're certainly in a down period for the game, no doubt. And this is 136,000 subs that they, you know, cashed out on for September. Like, you got to be subscribed to get into the game. So, you know, like obviously, if the whole point was just to collect the money and like, oh, they don't do anything about the problem, then you wouldn't see this kind of communication. So, I don't know. It's interesting just to see on a monthly basis, like how many, you know, bot accounts, how many cheating accounts are out there that they're identifying and you know, turning off. And it's a lot, man. I mean, that must be like essentially a full-time job on its own, I guess.
There's probably a department dedicated to it. There's probably 3 or 4 people at least that are handling all of it. Yeah.
You would think so. I mean, they probably get like there's probably some kind of like automated reporting or something about, you know, certain flags that they know about. Like, okay, if you see this, it's probably a bot, like look closer into it or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. But like, I mean, it's just so many accounts, dude. 4,500 accounts a day. Like it's weird to think about. And yeah, anyway, just our monthly PSA that just banned the bots is not sufficient to, actually resolve the problem. And honestly, the problem will never be resolved, I think, is really what it comes down to. It's just not a resolvable problem, but it's a mitigatable problem.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Jason, let's talk a little bit about BlizzCon. We got ourselves the BlizzCon overview, which is nice to see that we have a list of names of events that or areas that are going to be taking place there. We got community night. We got spend time together, which is like an area to meet up and share stories with people. The March of the Murlocs is back and is happening again. We have Hell's Ink, so actually there'll be tattoo artists at the con doing tattooing for all of the Diablo 4 tattoos that have been going on for a while. It used to be like the way to guarantee yourself a beta invite to Diablo 4 was to get one of their tattoos at a designated tattoo space. They showed a picture of the knapsack that everyone's getting who's attending the convention. The opening ceremonies obviously are happening. Overwatch World Cup's happening. They're going to have shareable moments, which is an interesting thing where they have these very large backdrops that you can stand in front of and get your picture taken. That's going to be another cool thing for people to check out and take advantage of. One of them's of full-on Tyrael. The other one's of Lilith are the two that they're showing us, but I'm sure there'll be a few more as well. We have the Inclusion Nexus, which is essentially a space where you can go and hang out with people. That's a very safe space for that. Darkmoon Faire is back, where you have the gambling on mystery boxes. I'm sure is one of the big things to do there, as well as they often do like dev talks, sort of like sit around and tell a story area as well. The Heraldric Library, which I'm definitely going to explore. It is actually a space where they're laying out all of their Diablo lore up on big boards, so you can actually check it out and walk around and see space. I wouldn't be surprised if they put in some replica relics and things like that there too for people to check out. I want to see like an actual life-size Heraldric cube. I think that'd be a really cool thing to see if they had one of those made. Meet the new hero. So Overwatch doing their promotion for a new hero that's coming out. Play upcoming content for World of Warcraft. So there's going to be, Dragonflight and Classic content for you to check out on the floor. Duel a Dev, where you can essentially challenge a developer in Hearthstone to a battle, a duel. They've had this for a few BlizzCons now. It is always popular and pretty cool to watch. We're going to have the Guild Clash, which we'll talk about in a moment, where they're actually specifying some guilds coming down and competing against each other in different events. So that'll be fun to see. And then Rumble Mania, where basically there's going to be exhibition matches for, Warcraft Rumble, and what that's going to look like for folks to be able to play. I think it could be interesting. Remember, when Hearthstone first came out, they did their first World Championship, which Firebat won way back then, where it was basically an exhibition match like that, and it kicked off that whole esport back then. So, as much as it's kind of been dying off of late, and esports in general are kind of dying off of late, this is another one of those big launches for folks to be able to check out Warcraft Rumble and see what's going on with it. And then they just go, and much more. And they have a picture of a mount that looks like a giant, like, ice figure mount thing that's kind of cool looking. And yeah, I think overall, the preview poster that they gave us is nice to sort of sum up confirmation that some of these things are coming back. So the Inclusion Nexus, Darkmoon Faire, obviously World Cup for Overwatch, opening ceremonies, time together, March of the Murlocs, community night. All these things are things that are coming back. Duel a Dev. But I feel like the Heraldric Library, the Hell's Ink, obviously the Rumble Mania, all neat new additions that'll be fun things to kind of check out. And I'm curious to see what those look like. And I see this and I'm like, hey, a lot of this looks neat. I'm certainly going to check out a good chunk of this and walk around the con and see that. And I'm sure there'll be things I want to go and listen to at Darkmoon Faire and spend time with people in different places. But I wish there was a schedule that I could look at that actually laid out what was happening on which days and what times, so I could kind of start planning things. That's what I want in my overview.
Yeah, well, it's not time for the schedule yet. Right?
Come on,
it's
man.
It's only October 4th. This is what they do. The end of September, early October. Like, listen, it's been a few years, but this is what happens. They start spinning up that machine in late September, early October. And so then, yeah, you get stuff like, the actual communication about what's going to be at the show. And then as we get closer, then they'll do whatever else. Now, this is the first BlizzCon they've done in a few years. And so some stuff is undoubtedly going to be different. they paid a lot of lip service so far to wanting this show to be more experiential. In other words, like to have more stuff to do on the show floor. And so, we'll see what that actually entails and kind of what they prepared. I mean, that is some of the coolest stuff at a BlizzCon usually is like when they empty out the archives or whatever and they have, like the charity auction stuff displayed on the floor, or, they're highlighting maybe the anniversary of some game or franchise or whatever. And they have these sort of ancient documents, like old design documents and stuff, and old promos and for the old games. That's some of the coolest stuff on the floor always. So, if they can sort of weave that into the entire show floor, that would be really cool. I mean, I don't think there's any like huge surprises here in terms of what they present in the overview, but it seems like a BlizzCon to me. For sure from what we've seen so far. And it does seem like we also got the floor plan, and it seems a bit maybe smaller overall in scope than some previous years. It looks like in the past they've used the North Hall building for various parts of the show, and this year it's going to be registration in the store. A thing they're doing differently this year is like the programming is basically going to be in the arena, and the stages are going to be dedicated to each franchise. So that's going to be different. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll try it. I mean, they said like all the main stage content is going to be broadcast in all the halls, so you could just go do whatever. But I mean, I'm a WoW nerd and a process nerd, and that's what I like to do when I go to BlizzCon is listen to people who make WoW talk about where parts of WoW come from or whatever, or what's coming up next or anything like that. So the panel content, even though I could go watch it on YouTube later or whatever, that is a big part of the show for me. So I'm hoping I'm not having to fight my way into the arena every 75 minutes or whatever. There's demos and stuff on the floor, but which is cool, and it's cool to play something that isn't out yet or whatever. But the demos never end up being a big part of my show because there's just other stuff to do. Yeah. I mean, obviously, a big part of going to the show is spending time with people that I wouldn't see literally anywhere else. I mean, we'll see each other there for the first time in 4 years. Yep. There's only one other context I would ever see you in, which was, like PAX East, which is the same kind of thing. Like, it's just not. To me, that's like what BlizzCon is for the most part. So, the demo stations and stuff are cool. And like, obviously they want to show off whatever they're working on. The whole point is to market the games. Right. So, just kind of is what it is. It's going to be a bit of a different show this year for sure. And they're putting the entire Warcraft family in one space. Yeah. In Hall D. Yeah. Which is a bigger space, I think, than the other halls, but you are putting WoW, Hearthstone, Rumble, and the Darkmoon Fair in that space. So I don't know how that's. I don't know if it's going to be sufficient. Listen. I'm biased, right? Because I'm a WoW nerd. WoW's been my main game for a very long time, but I feel like BlizzCon is the World of Warcraft convention, and the other stuff that's there is cool, but Diablo 4 really needs a shot in the arm. Let's be honest. Like it's just not a game that's grabbing people. A few months out from release. Let's be clear.
It grabs people. It just doesn't hold on to them very well. That's the difference. Right. People get in, really they play it. They do this. They do the campaign. It's awesome. They grind for a bit. They have a good time with it, and then they set it away. And the seasonal thing hasn't snagged as many people as they hoped it would. I assume the Battle Pass thing probably isn't snagging as many because I again base all of this around my group of gaming community that I have, and a lot of those people are large content creators who have all moved on from Diablo 4, and so it's that case of like if they aren't into it, then they don't have essentially that natural organic PR that games need from things like Twitch or YouTube to be able to keep momentum going on bringing new players into their content. So if Diablo 4 is losing those large content creators because the game just isn't holding them enough and isn't building the numbers enough, then it is in a certain sense struggling as far as that goes. Now, I'm with you that having Diablo 4 have an entire hall to itself is going to be really curious as to what they're doing with that space. That's a really, really big space.
They do have 3 other Diablo games, but like Diablo 3 is not going to get any big updates, right? I mean, D2R kind of is what it is. It has like, ladder resets and stuff. Immortal is ongoing. I mean, the hall is just like blocked out for Diablo, the franchise. So like, I don't know. It could be some other stuff too, but like obviously Diablo 4 is the flagship product in that franchise right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, it seems like a lot. And then when you have halls B and C dedicated to Overwatch 2 and Overwatch 2 World Cup
league,
stuff, like it's just not even the league, it's the World Cup, which is like the international all-stars of Overwatch. Like that's the kind of thing that used to be in the arena, or back in the glory days, it was StarCraft in the arena all weekend.
Yeah, so what it was initially is, and it is Overwatch League, because the league is what competes inside the World Cup, right? Or all those teams, Toronto and all that, et cetera, compete in the.
No, it's the international teams. It's not Overwatch League. It's the Overwatch World Cup. So it's like, here's like the best players from the U.S. and France and Korea and wherever else.
Right.
It's. I mean, there's bragging rights on the line, obviously, but it's. Overwatch League is done maybe forever as of the last weekend.
Right.
It's an exhibition, so I don't know. I mean, I don't really exist in the Overwatch space at all, but it seems like what I mostly hear is people who used to like Overwatch kind of complaining about the state of it,
So yes, they'll probably have an arena there that you can actually sit in and watch. Based off of what we see in this image, they have like roughed in, very faded out outlines of, where like seating would be and things like that inside of the space. It looks to me like they've built themselves an arena for the World Cup for that. Diablo, we know have that whole hall is going to be the Cathedral and Art Experience, the Fat Goose Inn, which is like a Diablo hangout space, the Tattoo Space, the Heraldric Library, the Tree of Whispers is going to be there, and then of course the Inarius background you can stand in front of. All of those things are going to be inside of that hall. So they do have enough to fill that space. They don't talk about Immortal at all inside that. They just talk about the Diablo universe. So I feel like it just celebrates the Diablo universe. We know that the Overwatch one is similar in the sense that it just celebrates the Overwatch universe, as well as there's a demo space that's going to be there to play the game itself. And then, like you said, Hall D, which is, I think, the opening ceremonies hall, is going to be this very large space that has Hearthstone, Rumble, Darkmoon Faire, and World of Warcraft all pushed into it. What I will say is I don't see an upstairs space on this map. We know that they have the lower level where the store is going to be, which has worked really well in previous years. We have the arena, obviously. We have the lounge upstairs for Portal Pass, that I assume is going to be the same as it was previously. And then we have the upper area, which is for registration. So the previous years, we had Darkmoon Faire in its own space upstairs as sort of a Darkmoon Faire space. So I don't know if that space is just not being used or not rented or used for something more administrative. Because it seems to me like this entire convention is going to happen on the main floor of the convention center. It does feel like it's a little bit smaller than it was previously. I know that basement area where the store was last year is massive. And they had dedicated some of that space to, they had like their arcade down there last time and a bunch of other stuff down in that area. And doesn't seem like that's the case this year. So,
well, I mean, they don't even have it blocked out in here. The opening ceremony is going to be in the arena. Everything's going to be in the arena.
Right.
All the mainstay stuff is in the arena only,
where previously
which is
was Hall D. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, it used to be, and they would use all the halls for different panel content at different times, which also leads you to think that there's going to be just fewer panels overall because they're only running one at once. It doesn't look like they're using the basement because the registration and store is going to be in the North Hall, which is the smaller, relatively newer building on the convention center block. And there's that third level up the big escalators, and that's going to be for Portal Pass, and that's where the lounge and theater is for that. So, a bit more condensed. I mean, it could be fine. I mean, I don't think that indicates like a problem with how cool the show's going to be because that really just depends on what they're showing off and what we're finding out about stuff that we're going to be able to play. So that's cool. it does seem like it's just going to be like a smaller show overall in terms of like the scope of the convention itself, the number of attendees and everything like that. And, I think it's natural over the last few years. The world is a much different place than it was in 2019. And, it's just, I think that's where it's at. I mean, I am super excited to get back out there finally and see everybody and do the whole thing. And we've kind of been told that WoW is the game that has the most headlines for BlizzCon. Mike Ybarra kind of mentioned that on Twitter. Somebody was on Twitter was kind of grousing about like, why does Warcraft get a third of one hall? Why did WoW specifically gets a third of one hall when, you have two halls for Overwatch and whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's just the way that the floor plan was laid out or whatever. It's the way the graphic looks, but WoW has the most news coming out of BlizzCon, so that's exciting. And I mean, when you see people who work at Blizzard kind of talk about BlizzCon coming up, and people seem to be really excited about the WoW announcements that are coming, and I don't really have any concerns about the immediate future of the game. I think we're going to be eating pretty well as WoW players for the foreseeable future. So
yeah,
I'm pretty happy about it.
And folks who are wanting to watch it will be able to watch everything that takes place in that arena hall, as far as the panels and opening ceremony and whatnot, on YouTube for the whole weekend, if that's something they want to check out. So you can feel free to watch the free live stream that'll be taking place. Gone are the days of pay-per-view for BlizzCon. What it used to be. Oh man, those were like when you had the multiple channels and like you could watch like direct TV. You watch like 4 different things at the same time if you wanted, and man, they had quite the setup. I imagine there'll be this huge sigh of relief from the production team to go, we literally just have to do the arena. That's all we have to focus on. That we're not bouncing from hall to hall to hall. We're not doing all of this. Here's a hosting area in this place and a hosting area in that place. It'll just be arena based. I think will be a relief for that.
For sure.
Now, they might have someone walking around with a camera in some of the halls at some point to be able to get some footage of things, but I do think that concentrating that will make a much smoother technical show for them. Not that they had really terrible technical shows previously as far as BlizzCon goes. Their esports are a different thing, but it has been certainly an easier setup for them, I imagine, with just covering the arena.
Yeah, condensing it all, I'm sure, will be good. And it's just time, right? It's 2023. Selling like a premium purchase for, you get like all of the stuff at this event streamed to you. We kind of just expect that, I think. Like most other events would work like that. And let's be honest, BlizzCon is a giant marketing, experience for Blizzard. That's what it is. They're selling you their slate of products. And, I've been happy to purchase virtual tickets in the past. I always thought it was a decent value considering all the in-game stuff and whatever. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to watch all of this video content. So I don't, I can deal with it, but it's like, it's 2023. Everything is live streamed everywhere all the time. So yeah, I think moving away from the pay-per-view virtual ticket is probably good. I'm sure they will still have some kind of in-game cache of goodies across all their different games that you can buy and celebrate BlizzCon with in the games, but like just decouple it from the video content, that probably is overdue. I think you probably have people who would just buy the cosmetics without the streaming component anyway, because all they really want is the in-game stuff. So, I think it'll be fine. You'll accomplish more of your marketing mission by just having the event streamable on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
And you'll still, sell plenty of in-game merchandise to your customers.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the BlizzCon Guild Clash, because we actually got a post dedicated to that. This is going to be 3 events. There's a 3v3 arena PvP event. There's a 5v5 Mythic Dungeon race. And there's the new content showcase, which is basically going to be information on a third showcase to wrap up the show. And this is Echo, Golden Guardians, Liquid, and Method being flown in by Blizzard, at least some of the players for those groups, to play inside of booths at the convention center, live streamed to the Warcraft Twitch channel and YouTube channels, as well as obviously viewable at the convention, competing against each other to determine who's going to be the top around the arena, Mythic Plus, and of course whatever this third showcase event that's going to wrap stuff up could be, which could be a raid, challenge. We don't know, but we'll find out once they actually release that last bit of information. This is going to be cool. I like when they do this stuff, bringing the guilds to do it. I've enjoyed the previous times they brought in, I remember when Midwinter came in and was competing on stage to fight randomly generated bosses inside the, outside of Orgrimmar. It was ridiculous to watch them try and beat these boss combinations, fighting 2 bosses at once, things like that. So I enjoy when they get this stuff going with community. It's nice to involve these very known entities inside the game with some of the top level players that are out there, and I think this will be fun. I think this is going to be a great chunk of content for people to tune in and watch, and because it's live streamed on these channels, you should be able to go back and watch VODs in case you missed something along the way. This is the type of content that's neat to check out while I'm at the convention, but I don't necessarily sit and watch all the way through because there's so many other things I'm doing. So I like to be able to go back and watch it afterwards. It's where that pay-per-view thing for me was actually kind of cool around the convention. I agree that it's outdated, but being able to be hey, you know what? I missed out on all these panels and all this stuff that happened because I wasn't able to be in all these places at the same time and these things overlapped. I can go back and watch them on the flight home, or I can watch them when I get home or over the next week or whatever it is, was really nice. And so by them condensing it down to one arena space, we're going to have that same experience again. It's all going to be up on YouTube. You'll be able to watch all the panels you want, all the stuff after the fact if you didn't get into the arena, which is great. But I think overall, this guild clash idea is going to be fun. If it becomes a consistent thing at BlizzCon that every year they're inviting down top teams, it's another thing for teams to kind of compete for, which is kind of neat, is who's going to get the invitation down to BlizzCon, because they'll fly these people out, put them in a hotel, give them food. It's a good deal for a lot of these folks. They get a lot of exposure because you get to be up on the Warcraft channels, and yeah, it's a good time for players. So I definitely look forward to seeing what they do with it.
Yeah, there's also no traditional WoW esports at the show this year, right? Because we're done with MDI season, we're done with arena season for now. So those traditional kind of BlizzCon championships are not happening at this event.
Yeah.
But they have this opportunity instead to do something a bit different, and it's cool because they can do kind of the invitation format, and they can, hopefully set up some stuff that's going to be fun to watch. Plus you have the season 3 sort of MDI preview almost, right? To do an MDI style, dungeon races on dungeons that will probably not be live as Mythic Keystones yet. So that's kind of neat. And then, yeah, whatever event 3 is, I mean, who knows? Maybe it's going to be a raid race through Amir Drasil, right? They did that before with, it was when High Mall was coming out, right? Because the, Warlords came out right after BlizzCon that year, so it was the brand new raid. It wasn't even out yet, So maybe it'll be something like that. Who knows? Maybe it's some new mode or new thing to do inside the new expansion that they've stood up a demo of that they're going to have them play. It could be anything along that spectrum. So yeah, it'll be cool. I mean, I sort of prefer this to having the traditional esports thing at the show, I think. I mean, I'm not really super into esports these days anyway. And so having a thing that's more of an exhibition and maybe more about showing off parts of the game than sort of that very high end, competition, an entire year of competition has culminated in this. That's cool, but I think it's fine to have that be its own event. And then to, have BlizzCon have more of a different vibe and just kind of showing off new stuff and celebrating it a bit. I sort of like that concept better, I think. I don't know how much of any of this I'm going to watch anyway. I don't usually go back and watch the AWC or MDI or whatever from BlizzCon. So I might watch whatever the new thing is, though. You know what I mean? I would probably not watch the traditional stuff, but I might watch the new thing.
Yeah, it's the advantage to not only teasing it out, but just coming up with something new and original to do at the convention that we can draw in some more attention for folks. All right, if you folks have enjoyed listening to this episode, we would like to take a moment to thank our patrons. They help make episodes like this possible. Thank you very much to Paul M. and Amy as our newest incredible patrons for jumping on and supporting the show. I'd like to take a moment to thank some specific patrons as well for what they contribute to the show. Alianas, Arajian, Celian, James, Kapawi, Max, Shorel, and Vespin. Thank you so much for all that you give towards the show and supporting the show, and that all of our patrons do. Thank you. You basically help improve the content we create and contribute a ton to the show. So we appreciate it. We want to take a moment to thank you. And if you're looking to hop on as a patron for The Starting Zone, go over onto patreon.com/The Starting Zone, and you can hop in there and support the show too. It has been wonderful the support we get. It really does help, particularly around this time of year. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. Welcome aboard, you patrons. Thank you for the support. And thanks to all of you who have supported the show, past and present over the years. It meant a lot and really helped us keep the show on track. We've talked a lot about how hard it's been to keep the show on track this past calendar year or so, just with everything that we have going on personally and in work life and stuff. And also to get out in front of the schedule this year. And this is this episode is technically chronologically 601. So we're working a couple episodes ahead to make sure that, we have stuff on the feed for people to check out. Mm-hmm. Patrons really go a long way to making that happen and, helping us be able to prioritize getting that stuff done. And just hosting the whole feed of like all the episodes going all the way back. I don't know how possible all of that would be without the patrons. So thank you all for helping us out and contributing to the show. It really does result directly in you guys getting episodes of TSE.
It does. Yeah. If you guys weren't contributing towards the show, we probably wouldn't still be doing it. So we definitely appreciate it. It is not easy to do, and we love that you all love what we create. So thank you so much for helping and contributing towards continuing TSE. If you folks have enjoyed this episode, you can also leave us a 5-star over on your iTunes, your Apple Podcasts. They really help out the show. We really appreciate it, and it does boost us up those charts and help more people find us. This one comes in from Larkin Bean, entitled Approachable and Informative. Started playing a couple years ago and coming across TSE was a big help. I didn't know some of the information they were covering at first, but the approachable way it was covered made me more interested and gave me starting points to search online. The topics covered here help me feel like I'm using my game time wisely, and even made me comfortable enough to stretch out and start playing with others in group and mythic content, rather than just sticking to solo play. Thanks for putting together a meaningful show that I can look forward to each week. Well, I'm glad, Larkin, that we were able to help you out with getting into the game and figuring things out. We haven't done an episode in a while where I broke down some of the basics. I used to stop our conversations and have this is what line of sight means when we talk about LOS inside a situation. And I haven't done that in a while, and maybe I'll start doing that again a little bit so it saves you some of the Google searching. But yes, the jargon and lingo can at least put you on the right track for what you should type into that Google search window for how to get going on things. So thank you so much for leaving us the 5-star. It does help us out a lot. We do appreciate it. And I'm glad that you are enjoying your game and enjoying the show.
Absolutely. Larkin, thank you for taking some time and writing in and letting us know. It is really appreciated. And yeah, man, that kind of lexicon type of stuff, when you get a patch every 2 months and it's got a whole new thing to unravel and new currencies and everything, it does start getting kind of unwieldy. And that's something we've kind of talked about on the show over the course of this expansion. It's it's good to have new stuff to do and it's fun, but how does a player who is maybe on the more casual side or maybe coming in late or what have you, how do you navigate all of these competing things for your attention? And that is, we kind of want to provide context to that, but also it is very hard to have to recap all of this stuff on a regular basis of Dragonflight specific stuff. I think at this point I don't even remember how the primal storms work, the stuff that the game launched with. It's that was almost a year ago. And I don't know, we have 5 layers on top of that matter more than that does. And, that's sort of just this era, I guess. So it is, it can definitely be a challenge to keep that all straight.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up episode 599 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If If you want to contact the show and leave us your feedback or ask a question, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter at The Starting Zone, or you can join our Discord server at thestartingzone.com/Discord. If you want to get your hands on some TSE gear, like Jason just did towards BlizzCon, you can find it over at TeePublic. That's teepublic.com/stores/The Starting Zone. We got shirts and mugs and stickers and fun stuff like that you can get our logos on. A few different varieties of logos. And Jason, where can folks find you on the interwebs?
The best place to find me, as always, is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald. You can also find me over on Blue Sky if you look hard enough, although I'm not really posting over there yet, but I am maintaining that account, and I will probably end up mostly switching over to there at some point. If I have to start paying to use Twitter, you will not find me on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
You can also find me on twitch.tv/Shieldwald and youtube.com/Shieldwald, although my ISP issues continue, so streams have been intermittent, and I'm going to be away for a while, so there will not be any streams until after BlizzCon probably. But you should still check the channels out, give them a follow, and there'll be stuff up on there someday, I think. I mean, I intend for there to be, so just going to be out and about for some time, but come say hi.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey. I also have one of those Blue Sky things as well, if you wanted to search for me over there. And then you also up on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD and on youtube.com/@SpencerHD. With that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening and jobs done.